December 29th, 2025. 11:30 in the morning. A call comes into the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. The voice on the other end is breathless, panicked.
My friend fell. He's gone. I need help.
The dispatcher asks for a location. GPS coordinates come through. Devil's Backbone Trail. Mount Baldy. Rescue teams mobilize immediately. But what they're about to discover, no one could have predicted. From downtown Los Angeles, Mount Baldy rises over 10,000 feet into the California sky. On clear days 50 miles away, millions can see its snow-capped peak. It looks peaceful, almost suburban. That's the first lie the mountain tells. The second is that it's safe. Marcus Alexander Muench Casanova was 19 years old. From Seal Beach, California, an avid sailor who understood wind, weather, and the ocean's power. His family described him as having a big heart and a love for adventure. On December 29th, he and a friend set out to hike the Devil's Backbone Trail. By noon, Marcus would be dead. But he wouldn't be alone. The first rescue helicopter arrives around 7:30 that evening. High winds buffet the aircraft. Ice coats the ridges below. Visibility is marginal. They locate Marcus's body quickly. His friend provided accurate coordinates. And then, the pilot sees something else. Two more bodies, lying on the mountain, not far from Marcus. The air medic is lowered down. The cable sways in the wind. He confirms what everyone fears. All three are dead. But here's what doesn't make sense. 3 people, same mountain, same day, same trail. Were they together and did they know each other? Did they fall at the same time? The sheriff's department would spend days trying to answer these questions, and the answers would only deepen the mystery. Let's go back. To understand what happened on Devil's Backbone, you need to understand the mountain itself. Mount Baldy, officially Mount San Antonio, sits in the San Gabriel Mountains, less than 50 miles from downtown LA. On a clear day, you can see it from Venice Beach, from Hollywood, from Pasadena. That proximity is deadly, because Mount Baldy doesn't feel like a serious mountain. It feels like a weekend hike. A challenge, sure, but nothing you can't handle. This is how the mountain kills. The Devil's Backbone Trail is a narrow ridge, sometimes just 3 feet wide. Sheer drops of hundreds of feet on both sides. In summer, it's challenging. In winter, it transforms into something else entirely. Ice forms on the rocks. Wind howls across the exposed sections. Every step is a negotiation with gravity. In 2023, British actor Julian Sands disappeared here. His body was found 5 months later. He wasn't the first. He wouldn't be the last. By the time rescuers arrived on December 29th, the wind was too strong for recovery. The helicopter couldn't hoist the bodies. Ground approaches were too dangerous in darkness. 3 families would spend the night knowing their loved ones were dead, but still on the mountain. Marcus's family in Seal Beach, and 2 other families in Los Angeles, who didn't even know yet, because the other 2 bodies hadn't been identified. Here's where the story gets strange. The coroner's office would take until January 3rd to identify the other 2 victims. That's 5 days. For 2 people who fell on a well-traveled trail near a populated area in a state with advanced forensic capabilities. Why so long? The official explanation is standard identification procedures, autopsies pending. But investigators were asking different questions. How did 3 people end up dead on the same trail, on the same day, in roughly the same location, with no apparent connection to each other? Juan Sarat Lopez, 37 years old, Guatemalan national living in Los Angeles. Bayron Pedro Ramos Garcia, 36 years old, also Guatemalan, also living in LA. Both fell from the Devil's Backbone on December 29th. Were they hiking together? Possibly. The sheriff's department found no evidence they knew Marcus. But the bodies were close to each other. Close enough that the helicopter crew spotted all three in one pass. Coincidence? Or something else? Let's talk about the weather, because this is where the story really begins. December 29th wasn't supposed to be this dangerous. A weakening high-pressure system was moving out. Snow levels were actually rising above 8,000 feet. To a casual hiker, this might have seemed safer, warmer, less extreme cold. But experienced mountaineers know the truth. Rising temperatures on an icy mountain create the most dangerous conditions possible. Ice doesn't melt uniformly. It becomes slick, unstable. A thin layer of water forms on the surface, invisible, frictionless. This is what was waiting on the devil's backbone that morning. Marcus and his friends started their hike around mid-morning. We know this from the 911 call timeline. They were prepared, proper gear, understanding of the route. Marcus was an outdoorsman. He knew what he was doing. So what went wrong? The friend's statement to police is brief. They were crossing a narrow section of the trail. Marcus was ahead and slipped. 500 feet down. No cry, no warning, just gone. The friend made his way to an area with cell service, called 911, provided coordinates. He did everything right. But here's the question investigators kept coming back to. Did Marcus slip, or did something else happen? Before you think conspiracy, understand this. Mountains are crime scenes, without evidence. Bodies fall, injuries occur, and the environment immediately begins destroying forensic data. Wind, ice, animals, time. By the time rescuers arrived, there was no way to reconstruct exactly what happened. But the proximity of the other two bodies, that bothered people. December 29th wasn't just about 3 deaths. While rescuers were fighting to recover the bodies, other hikers were in trouble. Over the next 48 hours, more than 20 people would need assistance on Mount Baldy. 3 required immediate rescue. Some had hypothermia, others were simply lost, unprepared, overwhelmed. 20 people in 2 days, on one mountain. This wasn't normal, even for Mount Baldy's deadly reputation. So what was different about December 29th? Here's a detail that didn't make most news reports. The subtropical low-pressure system that moved through Southern California that weekend brought something unusual. Rapidly fluctuating temperatures at high altitude. Morning, freezing. Afternoon, above freezing. Evening, freezing again. This created a cycle of melting and refreezing. The trail conditions were changing hour by hour. What was safe at 10 a.m. could be deadly by noon, and nobody knew. The rescue operation finally succeeded on December 31st, New Year's Eve. The bodies were retrieved and transported to the coroner's office. Marcus was identified quickly, but Juan and Bayron, that took longer. The official explanation never quite satisfied everyone. There's a theory that circulated among search and rescue personnel, never confirmed, never officially stated. What if all 3 men fell within minutes of each other? What if they were on different parts of the trail, but the conditions deteriorated so suddenly that multiple people lost their footing in a narrow window of time? Ice, wind, a temperature shift, natural disaster, not human error. It would explain the proximity of the bodies. It would explain why experienced hikers made fatal mistakes. It would explain December 29th. But it's just a theory. Marcus's family released a statement remembering their son. Big heart, love of adventure, passion for sailing. They didn't blame the mountain. They didn't demand investigations. They mourned. For Juan and Bayron, the public record is thinner. 2 men who came to America seeking better lives, who made Los Angeles their home, who decided to hike a mountain on a December morning. We don't know their full stories. We don't know what brought them to Devil's Backbone that day. We only know they died there. After the incident, several trails on Mount Baldy were closed through January 7th. Warning signs were posted. Media coverage was extensive. Los Angeles Times, Fox, ABC, all ran the story. Social media amplified it. Hikers shared warnings. But here's the hard truth. It won't stop. Every year, Mount Baldy claims lives. Every year, people underestimate it. Every year, search and rescue teams risk themselves to recover bodies from the Devil's Backbone. Because the mountain is there. Visible from Los Angeles, accessible, inviting. And the mountain doesn't warn you twice. The rescue teams who worked this operation showed extraordinary courage. They flew helicopters in impossible winds. They hiked treacherous terrain in darkness. They spent days fighting to bring 3 strangers home. None of them were injured, but the risk was real. One pilot later said, "Every time we go up there in winter, we're gambling. The mountain gets a vote too." There's something about mountains that calls to us. The high places, the thin air, the achievement of standing on a summit. Throughout human history, we've climbed. We've pushed ourselves. We've tested our limits. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. And sometimes, 3 people fall on the same day in the same place, and nobody can fully explain why. Here's what we know for certain. Marcus Alexander Muench Casanova, 19, slipped and fell 500 feet around midday on December 29th. Juan Sarat Lopez, 37, and Bayron Pedro Ramos Garcia, 36, also fell on Devil's Backbone that day. All 3 died from their injuries. All 3 were found within a relatively small area. All 3 fell on a day when conditions were deteriorating rapidly. Here's what we don't know. The exact sequence of events. Whether they saw each other. Whether they could have helped each other. Whether this was purely coincidence or something more systematic. A weather event. A trail condition. Something that made that specific day uniquely deadly. The investigation closed with accidental deaths. No foul play, no negligence, just the mountain. But there's one more detail. One thing that didn't fit. Marcus's friend, the one who made the 911 call, told investigators something strange. He said that as he was scrambling to find cell service, he saw other hikers, multiple groups, all heading up the trail, toward the Devil's Backbone, after his friend had just fallen. He tried to warn them, yelled about the conditions, but the wind was too loud. They were too far away. He doesn't know if those were the people who became Juan and Bayron. He doesn't know if they heard him. He doesn't know if warning them would have changed anything. But he thinks about it. Every day. Mount Baldy stands 50 miles from Los Angeles, 10,064 feet high, visible from the coast to the desert. The Devil's Backbone Trail remains open when conditions allow. Signs warn hikers. Requirements are posted for winter gear. But people still come. They see the mountain from the city. They check the weather. They pack a backpack. And some of them don't come home. 3 families are missing someone this year. Marcus's parents in Seal Beach, Juan's family, Bayron's family. 3 empty chairs, 3 sets of memories. 3 lives that ended on a frozen ridge, where the wind screams and the ice never fully melts. Were they unlucky? Were they unprepared? Were they in the wrong place at the wrong moment? Or was December 29th, 2025 a day when the mountain decided to take 3 lives, and the reasons why died with them? If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. Mountains don't care about your experience. They don't care about your preparation. They don't care about the weather report you checked this morning. They exist. Ancient, powerful, indifferent. One moment of bad luck. One patch of ice you didn't see. One gust of wind at the wrong time. That's all it takes. The rescue teams have returned to their stations. The helicopters are ready for the next call. Because there will be a next call. Another hiker in trouble. Another family waiting by the phone. Another body on the mountain. The devil's backbone is patient. It's been there for millions of years. It will be there long after we're gone. And it will keep taking lives. One at a time, or three at once. Marcus Alexander Muench Casanova, 19 years old, sailor, adventurer, gone. Juan Sarat Lopez, 37, seeking a better life, gone. Bayron Pedro Ramos Garcia, 36, making a home in America, gone. 3 names, 3 stories, 3 lives that converged on a narrow ridge of ice and stone on December 29th, 2025. We may never fully understand why, but we remember them, and we remember the mountain, always, the mountain.